Hello guys, right, I thought I'd show you something. I've done it a couple of times before, but I'm going to do things a little bit different on this one, and it's regarding on this actually your spod rod. Yeah, you can also do this also with your main line. Yeah, so if you do like to use braided main line, you can also do the same. Now, this has not changed since I've got it. It has still got the original braid on it, what I put on myself, and also the original shock leader, which is the Ultima one. And I have had no dramas with these whatsoever. Now, the only drama what I have had, you know full well what it's like with your normal casting rod. You can always cast your casting rod generally further than what you can get your spod rod. Your spod rod is a lot thicker, it's a lot heavier. Yes, you got the braid to compensate for the line and stuff like that, but you can never get a full spom out to the full range what you can obviously your normal rods. Yeah, so you always end up undercasting your normal rods to obviously mimic the actual spod rod. Yeah, it's pointless chucking your normal rods 200 yards, yet you can only say get 100 yards on one of these because you're putting the bait in a complete wrong location. But what I want to try and do is try and bring up the casting range a little bit more. Now, when you buy, I mean, this is the Ultima, this is the Ultegra Spod, yeah, the designated one. Matches perfectly with the rod and stuff like that. It's got more than enough power. It's just obviously down to my capability, obviously what I can whack it to. The only thing I've done, I've changed the handle. I swapped it over with a one of the my washers, Vanslow basically. Yeah, when we went down to Farlow's. I don't like the big chunky handle, so we swapped it. He had the old Ultegra Spod, which has got the same handles as what my other one has, so it's like, yeah, we'll do a swap because he wanted chunky and I wanted that, so jobs are good. So when you order braid, yeah, we always go down to the poundage, yeah, so £20, 25, 30, so on like that. But when you're spooling up, because with a spod braid you're normally looking around 300 meters, yeah, but we go down to the actual, like I say, the poundage, yeah, 25, 30, whatever it is. But when you look on your spools, and this has been like it for donkey's years, they don't generally have pounds on them. A decent reel will always be down to line capacity, yeah, so if you've got a 0.37, a 0.35, a 0.40, obviously that is the thickness of the actual line. So if you actually look at your spools, this is the same spool as this. That's the reason why I got it, because I want to obviously get it a little bit better, and then also have a spare spool for next time. 0.30 line is 390 yards. 0.35 is 290 yards. 0.40 is 210 yards. Now 0.40, if you're in a main line, is the ESP Synchro £18. That is 0.40, but different lines have different breaking strains at different diameters. So lose the breaking strain. Obviously you are going to need the breaking strain, but the main thing what you need to go down to is the thickness of the line in the millimeters, and then you can get it obviously a lot better. So what I'm going to do, because I want to get that spool up just a little bit more. Now I've actually pulled this spool off, yeah, not all of it, but just a bit of it, and this is the J line or G line, whatever they call it. I think it's Daiwa, and then like I say, it's the Ultima shot leader. I've had no issues with both, but the reason why I pulled a bit off is because of what I want to check out for is any frays and stuff like that. Now I don't mean just going over it by millimeters and stuff like that and looking at each bit of line. When you're actually taking it off, just literally pull it off, yeah, go a little bit further than what you know that you can cast. Now I went off there 3/4, and I know for well I've not used 3/4 of that braid. And then as I'm winding it back, a little bit like when you feel your main line, obviously you run your fingers up and down on your main line, see if you feel any notches. So if your braid is damaged, you're going to feel that notch. So that is what I've done, and it's all good, yeah. And that has been on for I don't know how many years, yeah. And There is times where it doesn't get used, and there's times where it obviously gets thrashed. I've had no crack offs, no breaks off, so I've had no problem with that. Sometimes, you know, it's like you brush a tree and stuff like that, and it's like bagger, yeah, but I've had no problem with this, the Spod rod marker rod. Yeah, so all we're going to do is put a touch more line on it, just to try and get it so it's got that little bit more, because even though I've used the full spool of 300 meters, I'm not quite to the top, but I don't want it right flush with the lip, because otherwise I'm going to get a load of wind knots, and I don't obviously want wind knots. But I just want to go up a little bit more, just literally 1 to 2 mil. That is all I want, and then that will actually make it go that little bit better. Yeah, so it's going to get obviously a further range. It sounds stupid just for a couple of mil of line, but it's going to make a difference. So all I'm using is a backing line. Yeah, now the way I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to just get this, yeah, £18, and then I am going to feed that. I'm not bothered, there's not a lot on there anyway, as you can see. Yeah, there's not a lot, so all I'm going to do on that is just literally bring that through that ring. I'm not wetting any of it. I don't want to wet the braid either. Some people like to wet the braid, but the thing is, when you wet the braid, it swells it, and then obviously as it dries out, it shrinks, and the problem is, once it shrinks, it's going loose on the reel, and then I'm going to get many frap ups. Yeah, so it's actually going to be pulling off more coils than what it should. It'll be pulling off like the undercoil, so it's going to go off and on dry. Yeah, now this braid itself, it's quite slick, it's quite smooth, it's not one what's going to tear your fingers apart. The shot leader, yeah, that will tear your fingers apart, but this stuff won't. So all we're going to do, we're going to feed that through the ring. Yeah, just play off a little bit more, try and not drop all this lot. I don't need to do anything flash on my loop, because on the actual, I'll show you this when I come back to it, I'm just going to tie a very basic knot, yeah, just to secure it to the braid or the shot leader, if you want to be a little bit more precise. So just a 3-turn grinner knot, and I'm not going down tight. And then all I'm going to do now is just literally wind it on. So I'm just going to wind it on a little bit, just so it is there. There we are. Drop this spool on the floor, not in a bucket of water, because I'm not bothered about that. So that's on the floor, and then now we are just literally winding it onto the actual reel itself. I want to still keep tension. That's going to bounce up and roll all over. It's gone over there now. I ain't bothered. Yeah, stay over there, yeah. Oh, that's hot. That's why you normally go in water, because it stops you burning your fingers. I might grab it off. Right, so that's the end. Right, so that is not a lot, but I don't want a lot. I said that I wanted to go between 1 and 2 mil. Yeah, and that's, we're about a mil there, so I'm just going to bring that spool right up. How's that on there? That's actually sticky padded on. So we'll cut that off there. Right, so have a check. Sorry if I'm going off camera. So I'll show you now what we've got. So we're a little bit higher up, as you can see. I've still got the outer lip. It's not protruding that. I don't want to protrude that anyway. I don't want to go past that, because that's obviously what's giving me the better line. So I can wind this back all the way on now. Let's undo that a little bit. And then what we'll do, we'll clip that on there just to stop it coming anywhere, going anywhere, should I say, falling all over, unspooling and all that. So that's just through one of the clips. And now what we need to do is make that so it is not the line on the front, don't we? Yeah, so that's what we need to do. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that now. Right, so what it is, I'll put you down here actually so you can see a little bit more. All it is now, take your cap off of your spool, take your spool off, okay, that's that. Then get your other spool, it's all off you, clip that on. Crank it on, and then put that obviously tight so that's not going to spin. So what I need to do now, I need to transform that backing line onto that spool, and this is how I'm going to do it. Yeah, but you got to consider I've got my shot leader. I don't want my shot leader to be at the very back. Now I could actually reverse it, because I know well all the braid underneath has not hit no line clips whatsoever. Obviously the fresh stuff. So what I can do is actually take the shot leader off and either retie it back on or with a new one. Either way, I've got no need, because obviously that shot leader, there's nothing wrong with it. And then reverse the line. So that's the way we might do it. So all I'm going to do now is unclip this, have this on the floor, put this backing line onto that spool. But I do it a different way now. I used to tie knots and I no longer use knots now. So what I'm looking for is just a bit of sticky tape or a bit of tape. Yeah, it doesn't have to, there we are, that'll do. A bit of parcel tape. And what this does, it eliminates the knot. I don't need the knot. Yeah, so we'll stick that onto there. We'll get that spool wherever I've just put it. I need to obviously feed this through my ring, this onto the floor. So we'll get that down there. That's on the floor. That's coming off nicely. So I'll go through my ring off my eye on my rod. Yeah, I'm not using obviously the full rod, just a part of it. Open up the bail arm. And if I get this line, just stick that into roughly the middle. And then what I'm going to do, it doesn't matter now where I actually place it, but what I want to do is have a look where my roller is actually on my bail arm, and I want to match it up to that. I don't want to have it top or bottom, obviously, if that is in the middle. So that is in the middle. So we will actually start this line into the middle of the spool. I'll show you in a second. And what this does, it eliminates the bulge in the spool from where the knot has been. Yeah, so that is all we've done. Bit of sticky tape to put that on there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is a couple of gentle turns of the reel just to secure that round there. 1, 2, 3. There we are. And then what we'll do now, we'll wind it all the way until that's on. That's all we're doing now. My spool's just tipped over, so we'll sort that out. If you're in the garden, it's much easier. Obviously, I've got a bloody roof across me, so I can only get the rod at a certain angle. So I'm going to go all the way until I can feel the shock leader. And then I'm going to stop. Alright, it's coming now. I can see it. There it is. So that's the shot leader. Obviously, that's where it went on. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to clip that up. I'm just going to turn the bail arm. Because I still want to keep those wraps tight. And then I'll just go round the what do you call it? The line clip. So we'll now cut this off from the knot, what I've just tied. And what we might as well do, because like I say, I can reuse this, I'm just going to pull it off until I get to my Albright knot. which is there, which has never failed. Yeah, it's a little bit frayed up, but it makes no odds. So that is that. We'll cut that off there, and we'll retie it and re-secure it in a moment. Now, I don't need to have another knot here joining this to that backing line. Yeah, so I'm not going to do it with a knot. I'm going to get another bit of tape. And then my line what I put onto here, I'm just going to tape that on. But I've still kept all the wraps going up and down, so it's obviously kept uniform on the actual spool. So we'll turn that, and then where it ends, we will tape it into place. Just make sure that is nice and secure. And all, like I say, all it is just normal parcel tape. So that is my spool leveled off a little bit. So I know for well when I put this line back on, apart from obviously the knot what I'm going to tie at the very end, obviously the Albright knot, I know for well that's going to be hunky-dory. So what we can do now is the same again, a bit more tape again. Doesn't matter what tape it is, sellotape, masking tape, whatever. Yeah. Now, if you have got any damaged line this way, you don't need to worry about it because you're putting the damaged line on the underneath. You're not going to go cast into that. Now, I don't want to... Yeah, we will actually. We'll keep it in with the wraps. So we'll keep this line actually starting off now down at the bottom. So all I'm doing, I'm sticking the line into the tape, and then the tape onto the spool. Just make sure that's stuck down nicely. Close the bail on. Couple of gentle turns. I don't need really any tension. Just to make sure it's going to hold that tape in place. Help if I do the clutch back up again. There we are, so that's in place. Now, normally with a braid, obviously if you've got quite an abrasive braid, it's going to pull your fingers apart. So I would recommend either using a sock or a glove. This stuff is smoother than line. So I can just get comfortable with it and just literally take it from one spool to the other without burning my tushies. Now this is going to take a bit of time. It's obviously how much line there actually is. Just keep going all the way, and I'm keeping tension on that braid, and just keep going with it. Now I'm not going to watch 300 meters worth of this, so I will actually pause you there for a minute. I'll get you to the end of this, and then we'll show you the knot to actually fasten it back together. Right, so we've just met the end of the spool. And just to prove that I haven't cheated yet using a glove or a sock or whatever, obviously you can see all the grime what's obviously come off of the lake bed onto my fingers. Yeah, it's not burnt. Yeah, it's just like algae and dirt and probably the dye from the actual braid. Yeah, well there we are. You can see I've not cheated, just straight with that. And it didn't burn my finger at all. Yeah. Now on that one, as you can see, there's still a little bit of line around there because I did originally have a knot, but there's no way near I was going down to that much. But if I just keep tension there, look at the difference now. Yeah, it is much smoother. Before I had a little bit of a lip at the front, and this is a heck of a lot better. It's a lot flatter. I've recycled the line, the braid. Yeah, I will get to saying braid instead of line. There's nothing wrong with that back end. Yeah, it's just reversed on, so I didn't really need to buy another spool. funny enough, I didn't. Yeah, that was just what I had laying around. Yeah, but I don't fancy using it because it's just too wiry. I'm not even going to get probably 50 yards, 60 yards with that. It's just too thick. It's like 100-pound braid. Yeah, so this stuff is like quarter of that thickness. It is very, very fine stuff. Well, what we need to do now is find our shock leader and join that back on. So here we are. So just make sure that is the right end. Yep. So we'll get these other scissors. We'll cut the old knot off. So what I need to do is just give myself a little bit of line. Take that off the spool. There we are. You can do that two ways, open the bail arm or whatever. Now with the Albright knot, it's not exactly an easy knot to tie. It does take quite a bit of practice. So what I'm going to do is make a loop from the leader. Okay. Then I need to make sure I know which way I've sent this in. So I'm going to pull the line through a little bit more. Probably going to give myself a bigger tag end actually on the loop. And then what I need to do is wrap it round 6 to 7 times, which is fiddly. 1, 2, 3. Don't know if this is on camera or not. 4, 5, 6. We'll go one more for good measure. 7. So that is that. And then what I want to do is come back up a few. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I need to do is pay close attention to which way this line went in, and I have actually got to bring this through the same way of that loop, which is that way. Let's make sure that is still in there, which it is. Hold both tag ends, moisten it down, pull it down. Yeah, let's literally keep going with it, and all those coils will come back together and form the knot. Now what I'm going to do is just wrap that around my fingers, wrap this one round, and just give it a bit of a jolt. There we are, that's the Albright knot. As you can see, it's a very fiddly one to tie. Now all I need to do now is cut these tag ears off. These tag ears, snag ears. Now when I cut these off, I don't go flush. I always leave a little bit. There's one, and the next one, 2, and that is my knot formed. Now what I'll do with this now, I'll give it a couple of casts, a couple of short range casts, and then a couple of longer, harder ones. And then what I'll do then, once that knot is actually full on cinched up, I'll just trim it back a little bit more on the knots itself. But now I've actually got that how I want it. As you can see, it is solid. Yeah, it's a really, really good knot. It doesn't slip. The back-to-back grinner, because obviously this is really, really fine and very, very smooth, it just didn't like to go with this Ultima one, so it had to be the Albright knot. But to be fair, the Albright knot actually, if you tie it correctly, does actually come out with a neater join. When you got a back-to-back grinner, you literally got a loop going that way and a loop going that way sort of thing. There's not really anything holding it together. It is just literally just that point of contact like that, where with this it is literally the whole entire knot. That's what I like about the Albright knot. So all we got to do now is finish winding this actually onto the spool. Make sure that is tight. There we are, that has met perfectly. So that is still up at the front where I like it. I don't like it coming all the way down on the reel. I like it up near the top. It's going to take a couple of casts to tighten it up. That'll also bed down the normal braid actually onto the spool as well. But all going well, that should increase the distance. Now another thing what I'd like to show you is the connection end. Now you've probably seen this before. What I have got here is a figure of 8 loop knot, just a normal one. Once you tie that up, at the very end just make a small loop, just like you would when you're doing a hair rig. And what that does, it just allows you to get everything off and on much quicker, instead of you cutting your leader off all the time and you're being buggered and obviously shortening down your leader. I know I've shortened it down on this one, but that is how I used to do it. Look, I used to be cutting them off myself, and you're just getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Where if you use this loop to loop system, it is ever so quick. Why have I got these scissors? They're absolutely knackered. Nick the missus is out the kitchen when she wasn't looking. Shh. So all you do on this, you get your little loop, you pass that through your swivel, then you get your bigger one, and you feed your spom on, or your marker float, whatever it is you're doing. Make sure that knot actually goes back through. Quite a small one on that. And that is it. So that is now connected, but when you want to take it off, instead of you having to mess about with a baiting needle or picking it or whatever, you just literally get your loop, pull your loop, and look at that, it all comes undone. So it's so much easier getting everything back off and swapping and changing from lead to spom to marker float to whatever it is, just through that simple little loop. But before you cast it, make sure you bed it down so your little tiny loop comes near your connection end. And then when you want to take it off, even, well, I get a couple of jolts so it's like it's had its casting, just comes loose. Dead easy. So that's it, guys. We've recycled again. Yeah, that's saving money. We've also got that little bit more line on there, so all going well, it should improve the casting. Just needs a couple of whacks now, just to literally bed it in, tighten it up that little bit more, and jobs are good. Thanks for watching. To the next one.